What there is
On 107.9 FM, this is GTFM on a Wednesday morning, 17 after 11 o'clock. Very Christmassy song, Mike Oldfield, Dulce Jubilo. There you go. Well, as promised then, joined in the studio now by Wendy Mackay from Mirth of Mind. Good morning to you, Wendy.
Good morning, Gareth.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Are you all kind of festive and ready? And
getting there?
Yeah.
Getting there. I think it's approaching very quickly now. 1 minute there's nothing happening, it's all too early, and the next we know we're in the throes of it.
That's it. Just jump in full guns blazing, so to speak. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to GTFM. Welcome to the show. Now we're going to be talking about. It's a pretty serious subject, this, isn't it? Loneliness at Christmas. You think of elderly people who've lost loved ones and they're on their own, but it's a little bit more to it than that, isn't it?
It is. It's something that's obviously throughout the year. It's not just solely Christmas. It tends to get exaggerated, or increased feelings of loneliness become a lot bigger around this time because there's loss, there's bereavement, and people are missing sharing this time of year with people they love. Also, they may have very lonely lives during the year, and it gets worse over this time of the year because you've got the bad weather, you've got lack of daylight, more weather that's keeping us in, so people are more isolated, they don't get out, people are too busy and are a lot busier than normal to pop in and visit like they would have done possibly during the year. So the pressure's on.
I think this time of year as well, because happiness for most people, thankfully, is kind of elevated, if you like, because of Christmas. People get excited. I mentioned a few times in the first hour of the show today about people going out for Christmas parties and get-togethers, that sort of thing. But of course, for people who are generally lonely throughout the year, that loneliness kind of continues into the Christmas period as well. So I guess it's maybe highlighted a little bit more.
It is. It's highlighted, and I think the media have a lot. There's a lot of impression from the media. We're all happy families, and everyone's got big robust families and relationships, and a multitude of friends in beautiful dresses, and it's just exaggerated. And when those that are not feeling it, obviously made to feel worse, really. So it's conscious of the reality that the media put over, I think, as well.
So what sort of age groups, I guess? We mentioned the elderly ladies and gentlemen who've lost loved ones, and of course, like you said, at Christmas time, families don't always get the time to go around and visit their grandparents, or more often these days, great-grandparents. But is there an age group, a much younger age group, that tends to get affected as well?
Yeah, loneliness covers all age groups. It is very much a new young phenomena as well. And there's a lot with social media. It looks as if everyone's connected, but loneliness is about deep psychological supportive relationships that mean something. And of course, obviously these days with the social media, there's a lot of fleeting connections that people think that are real, that may not actually be obviously there for each other at Christmas time or very sad times. It's all a different kind of reality. But yeah, it covers all areas, and the youth are very affected at it. I mean, if you're starting a new university in your new area, and people are, we're assumed that it's easy to make friends, but it's not. It takes time, and people often are very confused about that. They just don't.
And I guess with social media, as you mentioned, it's so easy now for people to pass negative comments about somebody, and that's not helpful, is it? Let's be honest.
No,
they shouldn't be doing that sort of thing.
No, there's a lot of criticism around that and a lot of negativity. It's best really to kind of, if you are going to go online, there's a lot of good chat forums. Mind have got Ella Friends, which is a peer support online program, which is where people can interact. So it's very much using the internet to interact, and chat forums to converse, as opposed to just read and observe likes and pictures. It's not so interactive. But the best thing is to get out daily, to try and meet someone, try and talk to someone every day. There are lots and lots of community groups out there. There's lots of festive stuff going on. Wreath making, carol concerts, where you can pop in on your own. You don't need to have someone, you don't need to have an invite. They're open to the community, they're welcoming. We've got a lot in Pontypridd there in the RCT, a lot of community groups that are more than welcoming to people that might feel nervous about approaching. And my advice is to get out there and to start, and to go easy on yourself, and not to put pressure, but to interact, because there is a lot going on in the community. We've got there's a side-by-side program, which is peer support programs. We've got community choirs There's health groups, there's arts and crafts groups, there's knit and natters, there's youth, there's football, there's your local rugby club. There's a lot of community spirit out there. It's just taking the steps to interact. But they can find out more information from myself. We've also got, throughout RCT, there's social prescribers based in GP surgeries, which are people that will help people connect with activities that are going on in their community, and there to encourage them to signpost them more than anything.
Now, we as a nation are getting there very slowly. Discrimination is something that people, quite rightly, we don't put up with it anymore. There was a time when if you were gay or lesbian, people wouldn't talk about it. Now we can talk about it like we are now, quite openly, and rightly so. Racism, of course, is something that, well, I would ever became established in the first place, makes me angry, but still, it's still there. But we are making very slow progress in those directions. Loneliness, though, you know, it's one of those things which is a huge problem and certainly needs to be tackled. Is it something to do maybe as well with people in financial difficulties? They haven't got the money to go out to socialise, maybe in a pub in the week, or maybe Christmas time they can't afford the presents, that sort of thing. Do they feel a little bit more isolated then sometimes?
Yeah, very much so. I think there's financial difficulty. There's mental health as well, and even
I was going to mention mental health as well.
Even though loneliness isn't a mental health disorder as such, it does exacerbate. It does increase feelings of mental health, and if someone is experiencing mental health anxiety or emotional health anxiety, it will get worse through loneliness. So then there's a bit of a cycle that starts, so people do feel more and more inclined to stay in. And yes, if they haven't got money to contribute in going and socialising, but there is still a lot to do. People need to look after their health. They need to have self-care. We've got some beautiful parks and mountains. People need to get out, you know, take exercise, especially during these periods, because loneliness can develop into something quite heavy. So if people can get out, try and get out every day, try and take some exercise, eat well, sleep well, try and interact at least once a day, try and have a conversation with someone, whether it's a neighbour or someone in a cafe.
Yeah, because they can play a big part, neighbours in particular, can't they?
Totally.
They can become the unofficial family, if you like, I guess.
Totally, and pleasantries, just passing pleasantries and small conversations really have got a lot of added value that people don't realise until they get out. And staying in the house and staying isolated isn't the answer. But obviously, if they do, and if a lot of people can't get out, and there's a lot of physical barriers, and obviously the weather, if they can't get out, then they you know, to pick up a telephone, ring an old friend. It's not, this time of year, it's quite normal to hear from someone you haven't heard from a long time. So it tends
to happen. Even brothers and sisters sometimes. Perhaps if families are so busy and siblings are so busy, it's usually Christmas Day when you get that phone call, isn't it?
It's a window of opportunity for maybe people who don't want to impose in people's lives during the year. Christmas is a time where you can, and you know, you should be able to ring up and make a coffee date, or make a cup of tea, or have time for people. But
so what if people then are worried about maybe a neighbour, somebody they know is elderly? Should they go knocking on the door and saying, "How are you? Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you need anything from the shops?" You know, that sort of thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, people feel worried and feel, you know, they're busy. Everyone's got priorities and pressures, and that becomes another one. But you know, 15 minutes sometimes is all it can take. And if you can schedule that in, there's a lot of, you know, and a lot of people want to volunteer. There's huge scope for volunteering, which has a two-way benefit. That it helps the person that's volunteering to get out, but also it helps the people that are being visited. But yes, on a local level, you know, try and make the time to pop in and check.
So what is Mind recommending then for people affected by loneliness? What can people actually do in the first instance?
It's self-help. So there's several things. People can get in touch with their peer support. They can get out into the community and try and connect with the community group. There's a level of, they can volunteer, they can get out and do it like that. They can have they can go on. One of the main things is to get help, is to talk honestly with someone. So if people are getting quite low,
and that's the key to mental health as well, which obviously is very much to the fore now. It's all about talking, isn't it? And saying that I've got an issue, I've got a problem, I've got a mental ill health disorder, or whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. Just tell people and talk more openly about it. Makes that particular person suffering a little bit happier. It's a weight off shoulders.
It's
that
very,
sort of
very
thing.
powerful. It's very powerful to talk, and just for someone to listen is very powerful. And people don't need to have huge therapy or a lot of analysis. It's just about talking. It's opening up. It's your emotions. They're powerful, and it's not necessarily mental health. It's emotional health, and people can. And we have got active monitors in our area. There's counsellors in GP surgery, so if people feel like they haven't got the friendships or they haven't got the confidence there are counsellors out there. They can go to their GPs and they can ask for support, but generally just try and open up a bit. If it's to a friend, offload a little bit, and sometimes a lot of that people feel better.
Yeah, and for those people who are suffering from loneliness, and as we go now from Christmas into the new year for 2020, if people get a little bit low, because sometimes it happens after Christmas as well, and New Year, you've got the high, the emotional high, all the parties and the celebrating, but January can be a very low month for a lot of people.
Oh, totally, isn't it, Gareth? It's kind of, it's all the credit card statements come
Absolutely.
in.
Yeah,
the holidays are advertised on the telly. The holiday season is finished. We're back to square one. Nothing really has changed. Life is just the same, isn't it? So
yeah.
it can be quite a blue period, can't it? So it's very much again self-care. So it's get out, it's exercise, watch your nutrition, eat well, keep on connecting. It's the 5 ways to connect, which is to help other people, to connect with other people, to take up a new course, to start some learning. It's also a beginning of the year, we're beginning of a new decade. So
yes.
we can put a lot of goals in there and try and kind of have some plans for the whole year ahead and take that pressure off of January. It'll come and it will go.
Yeah. Have you got a number then? Any sort of contact number for people off the top of your head? Anything?
I haven't got a phone number. We can we're online. Obviously, the Merthyr and the Valley's Mind are we've got a website.
Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot there. I haven't got a number off the top of my head.
But if they can look it up.
So they can look it up. It's Merthyr and the Valley's Mind. We're based in the High Street in Merthyr.
And people can just go in and have a chat to somebody? Is it that easy?
No, it's not.
Right.
It's not. If people need to talk to therapists, if people need to have some counselling, some support, they need to speak to their GP.
Right. Okay.
So that is very much the first port of call, because
Right.
we haven't got the manpower in the office to deal with that. So people need, and that's the correct procedure, and people will get the help they need.
Great.
But they need to go to their GP and they need to talk through that. They can, of course, ring me and get in touch with the office to find out about what kind of groups are going on in the area, to get some peer support, and that we can signpost.
Okay, Wendy, you're an absolute star. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me,
To
Gareth.
talk about this very, very
Yeah.
sad, very, very sad subject of loneliness at Christmas. Very important to chat about it though, and hopefully come back in the new year and we can tackle other issues, because it's a minefield, isn't it, altogether?
I look forward to that.
Okay,
Gareth.
thanks very much, Wendy,
Thank
and
you.
have a good Christmas.
Thank you, and yourself.